Hi, and welcome to Discovering Your Purpose Part 2. We have an invasion of the YouTube channel. Kathy is taking over this week. And she shared with us in the first video about step one or part one of discovering your purpose. And that was to try new things.
Correct. Try new things.
Now, what is part number two?
Thank you for asking, Roger. Part number two is connect the dots.
Okay.
I loved playing connect the dots or those sheets when I was a little girl in kindergarten. So if you remember when you were in kindergarten, they may have given you these connect the dots so that you could learn your numbers. At first, it was 0 to 10. So they were very simple. There was a lot of space, and you could already tell what the picture was going to be even before you connected the dots. It was very easy. But then as you got older, they would give you more difficult connect the dots. And sometimes it would be up to 100, or it would be all the ABCs and things like that. And so as you got older, you would do different ones, but I loved them every time, especially when I couldn't tell what the picture was at the beginning just by looking at it. And so it would encourage me to, hey, let me connect the dots. I can't wait to see what the final, picture is going to be. Same way when finding your purpose. Oftentimes, there are things in our lives that happen that if we're not careful or we don't pay attention to them, we might miss connecting the dots.
Good.
And very often, God talks to us and shows us our purpose by connecting the dots. I think of Joseph in the Bible. He had some bad experiences that happened to him. His brothers were jealous of him. He was thrown into that pit. Then he was sold as a slave. And then he had a good time there. That he was highly favored by his master there. And then, the master's wife tried to go after him, and then then he went into jail. And all of these things that happened in Joseph's life, if he wasn't paying attention to all of these things, he would never, when he finally became second to the Pharaoh and in charge of all of the Pharaoh's businesses, he would never have been able to look back and say, this happened and that happened and this happened and all this, but it all was in preparation for what I am prepared to do today.
Okay.
So he connected the dots, or we could see as we read in the Bible of his life, how all of these different things connected the dots. I'm going to give you a personal experience of my own. When I was...
It's a good story, by the way. My favorite story of all.
When I was 14 years old, unfortunately, it got to a point where my mother was too ill to be able to take care of my sister and I. A couple of different things had happened at school, in the hospital, and so forth, that it kind of got the Department of Human Services, DHS, involved in my family and our case. A counselor, a social worker, showed up at our home. And at that time, my mom was not there. She was actually in the hospital sick again. But I was there with my grandmother and my uncle. And the social worker sat us all down in the living room and said, we are going to remove you from your home with your mother and the current home that you're living in here, because we feel like it's not a safe place for you to live. They said that if my father did not accept to have my sister come and live with him, that unfortunately they were going to have to separate my sister and I.
Wow.
I was 14, she was 9. And, at that time, I did not know this, but the social worker proceeded to let me know that people like to take in the younger children, but nobody likes teenagers.
Wow. That's how she said it.
That's how he said it. He said, no one likes teenagers. And they don't like to take them in as older and younger together. So we'll probably have to split you and your sister, and you'll have to go to a group home. So there's a home specifically where several teenagers would live in. I was grateful to God that my father did accept to take us back and to live with him. So we didn't have to go through that experience. Yeah. But that left something in my heart.
Wow.
Just the fact that someone would say no one likes teenagers or no one wants teenagers, that really hurt in my heart. But that actually hurt in my heart because it reminded me of something that happened even when I was younger.
Wow.
And at the time, I didn't even know that they
Break
correlated.
Break it down.
When I was younger, I was about 9 years old, and it was for Christmas. And we all we lived in Pennsylvania, and we went to New York to go to my uncle's house to celebrate Christmas. He, at the time, was married with his first wife, and she wasn't the nicest person. Even before, before she took in the foster children that she took in, she wasn't the nicest, even just to us, the regular cousins and stuff when we would come visit with family. But that particular Christmas, as I just mentioned, they had taken in some foster children. It was 4 little kids. And I remember very distinctly how she treated her kids in one way and the foster children in another way.
Different way.
Totally different way. She would be very rough with them. She wouldn't speak to them kindly. She always seemed to have her voice raised at them. They weren't allowed to eat with us at the table. I couldn't understand why they couldn't. All the cousins got together, but they couldn't be with us. And I don't understand why that was. We weren't allowed to play with them. Like we wanted to play and get them involved and be all together. No, they had to be over there on the side, and we weren't allowed to play with them. And I remember when we were about to go back to Pennsylvania, my heart was broken. And I was begging my parents, can we take them? Can they come live with us? I didn't want them to stay there because I knew that was not a good home for them. So those 2 dots, I even when I was 14, I didn't connect that with the first one. But as I got older, I realized that these 2 dots connected with each other. Fast forward a few years, I am now married to Roger, and we go to visit.
That's me.
We go to visit a good friend of yours in Texas.
Yes.
His nickname was Country.
Country, yeah.
I'm not sure. Why did they call him Country?
You said because he liked country music. No,
no, that's not it.
Because he was like country. He was like country.
It was like
yeah, like from the country. Like really country,
Okay. I thought it was because he listened to country music.
Yeah, not a city boy.
He wasn't. Okay. Yeah. His friend Country, you all, when you were in college, you guys worked at a group home for troubled young men, and he worked there with you. In fact, he was the one who introduced you to that job, correct? It seems like Country enjoyed that so much that he made that his personal life. Yeah. And him and his wife
and ministry.
Life
and ministry, yeah.
And we went to visit them, and I was absolutely, completely impressed with how him and his whole family just gave their whole lives to these children. Yeah. They turned the whole house into a place that was safe for them, that was fun for them, that they could find moments to kind of, process stuff, that it was games and activities, and they did everything for those children. Even his own children, his own 2 small children, were very much a part of the lives of these older children, these young boys and girls that were in this home that he was able to care for. And I was so impressed with how beautiful they did it and how much they loved those children. That was dot number 3. I had no idea that these dots were going to come together at some point in time. Fast forward again a few years. Now I'm married we were still married, but now we have 2 children of our own. I am now 30 years old, and we moved to Oregon. About 6 months in, while we're living there, or 8 months in, we get approached by one of our church members that says that they were foster parents. And unfortunately, they were going to have the girls that were living with them live in another home because there was a conflict of interest, because she was now going to work for the Department of Human Services. So they approached myself and another family and asked if we would be interested in taking in the girls. I really, in that moment, felt that God had called me specifically to that purpose.
Well,
I connected the dots. It all just came to me at that moment.
All made sense at
that moment. Correct. It all made sense at that moment. Yes, I went through that experience when I was 9. I got to see foster kids being treated badly. I almost became one myself. And the fact that they said nobody wants teenagers. And then I got to see someone love on teenagers in such an amazing way. And now I'm given the opportunity to do the same, to take in some teenagers. And in my mind, I wanted to say, I don't want anyone to ever say no one wants teenagers. And I just felt like that was God's calling for us. I know that it took you a little longer, but you prayed for it. You prayed through it. And then, eventually you felt that God specifically spoke to you. And we took in the foster girls. We took in one. And then later on, we took in her sister. They've always lived with us, Yesenia and Daisy. And I just felt like God had called us to that specific purpose in that time. And I only knew that that was the case because I was able to connect the dots. So with connecting the dots, I just want to let you know, and I want to leave you with this phrase or with this statement. My suffering is someone else's survival guide.
Wow, so powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful.
My suffering is someone else's survival guide. So let me kind of break that down to you. Oftentimes, we go through very difficult things in our lives. It could be it could be a set of circumstances. So you're connecting the dots. So why would we allow someone else to just suffer without being there to help them? If God has allowed us to get through something and come out as survivors on the other side, why let's allow God to use us for his purpose, to be able to help somebody else so that we can give them a survival guide in the midst of that problem that they're currently going through. Let's bless somebody else with maybe the circumstances, good or bad, that we've had to go through in our lives. Let's bless somebody by giving them that survival guide so that they don't have to go through it alone or figure out all of this stuff on their own. Let's be a support for one another. My suffering is someone else's survival guide. May God use you, and I want to challenge you, may God use you to be able to be a survival guide in someone else's life and connect those dots.
That's right. All right. So that's episode number 2. We're praying that God will help you to connect the dots. Remember, if you want to discover your purpose, you're going to ask for clarity to connect it in the dots. You got to try new things. That's number 2. The next video is going to deal with number 3. This has been encouragement for entrepreneurs. I hope that you can live in your purpose. Any comments, any questions, anything that you want to reach out or connect with us, just drop it in the comment section. And welcome to our virtual family. We are thankful for you guys. All right. We'll see you guys next time. This has been encouragement for entrepreneurs.
See ya.